Hello, my name is Parker Wood, and today I'll be giving you an introduction to the implementation of EHRs and AI into healthcare. Here's my broad introduction. I completed an internship at UNC Rex Hospital in a project management role. I observed challenges and opportunities with AI and EHRs. AI stands for Artificial Intelligence, and EHR is Electronic Health Records, and they are two of the new things that healthcare systems are trying to adapt and trying to work towards. Most of my insights from my paper and from the presentation came from just broad, informal conversations from staff and people in passing, and also I can't dive too deep into what I heard just out of regulations and safety. This actually really sparked interest in digital risk management and healthcare policy. I've been able to kind of do a lot of research and figure out a lot about that since, and I've been very pleased with that. And this presentation ties those experiences to broader, more generalized policy needs. Now for integration. Technologies are transforming workflows and clinical decisions. Technologies are implemented everywhere. They're becoming much more prevalent everywhere. They're getting integrated. We just have to figure out how to make it as effective as possible. AI improves diagnostics and predictive care. EHR streamline patient records and information access. It also revealed frustrations and inefficiencies when dealing with integration. While, like I said, AI can improve diagnostics predictive and EHR streamline patient records, there are some frustrations to be had with it. It's not quite perfect. It's not quite finalized just how to do it great yet. These tools are promising, but they're not always optimized, kind of like I mentioned. They're good tools and there are bright spots. We need to figure out how to eliminate any of the problems that might come along with them. Alert fatigue and workplace disruptions was one of the biggest things I found amongst nurses, and I found it very interesting just how big of a problem this was. Frequent alerts lead to provider desensitization. Some staff ignore notifications due to overload or just a sheer overnumber of alerts and notifications. There's a risk of missing critical alerts in high pressure situations because of the overwhelming amount of alerts that come through at a time and just throughout the days. It's hard to really look and say this one's more important than this one, so they kind of get desensitized to these alarms and could potentially miss a critical alarm. It adds to provider frustration and slows care delivery. It echoes research on EHR usability issues. EHRs are great, it's just how to get them in, how do we use them, because if you use third-party vendors, things can become very disruptive, things can become very problematic. And while EHRs have been a great tool, there's also been quite a few flaws with them as well. Interpretability is still a major problem. Incompatible systems limit data sharing across departments, leads to duplicate testing and communication delays. I know firsthand dealt with some of these things where because they were using different third-party vendors for different areas, different types of things, that there could be numerous duplicate testings, kind of like I mentioned, done on a patient because they weren't able to access it as fast and they needed to do that testing because they couldn't find it because of just a usability issue between numerous platforms. The 21st Century Cures Act intends to fix this problem. Vendors resist standard API adoption. And this is a problem that I've frequently observed. Like kind of I mentioned, this was a thing that I observed throughout my internship. Just a few things here and there that this was a problem with. AI decision-making, trust, and transparency. AI is a great tool, but also how it's based and how it has worked can cause some issues and have caused issues. Clinicians are unsure how AI-generated results are created. They know how they come about these things, but they don't know specifically how they are created. It raises questions about algorithmic reliability. It knows that AI produces good answers, but how? What is put into AI? What makes AI? What makes AI effective? What is the general understanding of AI that makes it work? Are tools assisting or replacing clinical thinking? And a lack of understanding reduces trust in AI. There are potential risks if misused without human oversight. So this kind of goes to tie in. We have to use AI as a tool to help. This should be a helping tool. This should not be an override. This should not be bigger or more important than a clinical judgment. It should be to help assist them and speed up the processes. Cybersecurity is a huge thing. There have been numerous different cyber attacks on healthcare facilities. Like I kind of mentioned in my paper, it is a huge problem and a huge threat, especially with going to EHRs. Staff trained in phishing awareness after recent scare. That's something that I had worked on. I had seen you have to be trained in any sort of different cybersecurity. Security felt reactive, not preventative. I did see a lot of struggles, not specifically in the hospital system that I worked in, but through my broad and general research, a lot of strategy regarding cybersecurity deals a lot more reactive than proactive. It isn't how do we eliminate it, it's how do we react once it happens, which I think is kind of a flawed mindset. The digital systems are vulnerable to breaches like Anthem's of 2015, kind of like I mentioned beforehand. Cyber risk is organizational, not just technical. Hospitals need system-wide preparedness culture. It needs to be top to bottom. Everybody needs to be prepared and everybody needs to be trained on how to deal with cybersecurity, how to deal with cyber safety. It doesn't need to be just an IT or a tech problem. It needs to be top to bottom. Gaps in policy and oversight. HIPAA doesn't cover AI transparency or vendor accountability. Regulations focus on pre-implementation, not just continuous learning. Policy hasn't kept pace with real-world AI risk. That is one of the things that I kind of focused on in the paper I had a problem with, is that policy has not kept up with changing technology. It hasn't kept up with the capabilities. It doesn't continue to flow as technology and as healthcare advances, the policy and the legislation needs to continue to evolve and adapt with that to ensure patient safety and success overall. Providers and regulators need updated frameworks, kind of like I mentioned. It needs to be updated. It needs to be continuously updated. Implementation oversight is too limited. It pretty much speaks for itself. Equity and algorithm bias. Bias in AI can harm underserved groups. Tools may underperform with non-representative data. This is because you have to put stuff into AI. AI comes from tools, it comes from the information that is given. And if there is any bias or any sort of flaw in the information that is given that makes the AI or the artificial intelligence run, that is a flaw, that is biased data. Equity testing should be mandatory before deployment. Absolutely, it should be tested. It should be ran through. You should know exactly what you're getting before it is deployed. Policy must ensure fairness in digital care. Ethical risks are just as critical as technological ones. Ethics in healthcare is everything. That is how you maintain your reputation. It's how you maintain your ability to do work. It is just as critical as maintaining the technological care. The role of human oversight. Technology should support, not replace clinical judgment. Kind of like I mentioned, AI needs to be used as a support tool. It doesn't need to take over the clinician. It doesn't need to take over the decision making. It needs to help him or assist him. That is what we call a human in the loop model that is essential. It can provide suggestions, AI can provide suggestions, but in the end, the clinician has the ability to override it and has the final say. Clinicians must retain authority to override AI, like I just mentioned. Digital tools work best with clinical collaboration and it encourages safer, more personalized care. Having the human make the final decision while it's being assisted by AI is the best strategy. It allows AI to help them to maybe spin their wheels a different way and give them a thought. But at the end of the day, the human judgment is what we trust and what we have based healthcare on to this point. And here are my closing thoughts. Toward proactive reform. Observations reflected national issues in healthcare tech. Throughout my studies and throughout my research, it is more than just one or two systems. It is a complete legislative and complete policy failure to keep up with technological advancement. Risk management must be proactive, not reactive. I think risk management in this area is significant. You have to look beforehand. You have to be able to know, you have to be proactive. Know what's going to go on beforehand. Be prepared before something bad happens. Culture shift needed in training, transparency, and regulation. Everybody needs to buy it. Everybody top to bottom needs to be aware. Everybody needs to be aware of this. Oops, I apologize. Everybody needs to be aware, and I need to be ready and to go with it and roll with the flow to ensure ethical and technological safety standards. Innovation must align with ethics, equity, and safety. It all must align. It's not, you shouldn't look at technology in healthcare as any different than any other tool or any other system that would be used. This will take a balanced approach and can lead to better care for everyone. With some of the solutions that I suggested, keeping keeping AI as suggestive tools and helping assist with like the human in the loop model, and then making sure everybody is cybersecurity aware and making sure everybody is prepared will significantly help the technology world and AI. It will help them become much better, implemented better, and used with much more patient safety.